Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United here on a lovely Wednesday where I'm joined, Kieran McGinley, by Cormac Dooley. Cormac, hello, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
It's good to have you back. Well, let's jump into it. We've got Europa League to talk about. We've talked previously about maybe that will result in San Sebastian. But Cormac, it's been a while since you and I have shared a mic together. It's almost like we have to reintroduce the pleasantries again.
I know it is, yeah. We were on a good stretch there for a while, and all of a sudden we weren't on the same ones again. But no, I'd say it's good to be back with you, Kieran.
Was it something I said? Maybe.
No, not at all.
Well, we've spoken previously about previous match days. Obviously, we haven't heard from you this week so far. So let me get a quick reaction from you from the Arsenal game.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, we played well. I thought we deserved that win. Arsenal were getting very lucky. Raya saved. I'm not sure how we didn't get the ball over the line at the end, and even we had other great half chances. That one Højlund went in that he just hesitated for a second, got blocked. But yeah, no, to be fair, I thought the first half was kind of dull, but once again, I mean, Bruno just spectacular this season. What a free kick. And then, really just stepped it up in the second half and could have had a few more. But of course, we can, a bit like Sociedad game, can't really get the win in the end, 3 points. And but no, overall, I thought Amorim set us up well, and I thought we done very well and should have came out with the game with 3 points. It was unfortunate. We only got a draw because we deserved better, I thought.
Yeah, I think especially the second half makes more of a case than the first half, the fact that we deserve 3 points. But I think a point for either side is fair. I just think Arsenal now are, they might be too far away from Liverpool. We're having to talk about a title fight for another team just to feel involved. But that being said, we have a chance to make it to the quarterfinal of the Europa League, where we're coming up against Real Sociedad on tomorrow when you're listening to this at 8 o'clock. You can see it, I believe, on TNT Sports. Yes, TNT Sports 1. We're back on the prime time of Europa League. Now, obviously, scores are level at 1 apiece. And like I said to Niall yesterday about, if Real Sociedad play the way they did when they're at the home leg and only really turning up after they got a penalty awarded to them, they're going to get stuffed. Needless to say, though, if they give us those 20 minutes at the end and have that sustained period over the entire match, we're in serious trouble.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I was actually travelling last week, so I was only able to watch the extended highlights. I couldn't watch the match, unfortunately. But yeah, I was very surprised watching the highlights. No Sociedad highlights till, as you said, the 70th minute, which was surprising. And it seemed like United, were blistering, counter-attacking, going forward. Garnacho was getting off some chances. Zirkzee had a few misses. But yeah, no, I mean, towards the end then, Sociedad really were piling on the pressure. It looked like could have had another goal or two possibly after that penalty. So yeah, it's just going to have to be, can United show up on the day and can they limit the mistakes at the back? To be fair, I think I was on the preview episode last week for that, and we were saying, I'd be happy with a 1-1 draw. Going back to Old Trafford with something to fight for. So I think we're in a good position, although feel like we could have maybe come out with a win there by narrow margins, but no, I'm optimistic. I think the Arsenal game at the weekend we played well, looked good, and I'm confident we can actually, a rare confidence going into this one, I think.
Yeah, it's almost a bit misleading to have so much confidence in United, isn't it? Because the consistency has been a real concern this season, and it's been a repetitive theme time and time again on this podcast, is the fact that you don't know what the team mentality is going to be like game after game. We had that 1-1 against Arsenal. We knocked them out of the FA Cup. We also had that draw against Liverpool as well. But then we come up against someone like Fulham, who, it's not the greatest game, but we get battered. Tottenham earlier on in the season, we get absolutely pummeled to the ground. It's a case of what is going to happen in this game, and I'd be I'd be lying if I say I have no idea. I really don't have a clue, but I just hope and going with blind optimism that it's going to be a better performance, and hopefully we earn our spot in that quarterfinal.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think even going back before Amorim and Ten Hag, it's been an issue. I don't know if with the players or what, but even going back to Ole, Ole would get results against City, the big teams, and then we'd really struggle against, the weaker teams. It seems like that's been the pattern for a good number of years now at United. But yeah, I mean, kind of blind confidence going into it, but I feel like the Sociedad performance, it looked good enough, and you kind of get caught in the trap of looking at recent form. And I know it is hard with United, but I feel like they've had a decent couple of games now, and maybe things are starting to click. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But no, I mean, the players know what's on the line. Season really, we keep saying on this podcast, the season is the Europa League now. And yeah, it's going to be a massive, massive night at Old Trafford, and please God they can do it, because I don't want to be watching, months of football with nothing to play for.
Yeah. We have to go back to the dark ages. No, lots of teams have to go through that. They'd be lucky to have Europe, so they'd be delighted to have it. So we should be happy that we have it for now. What I do want to say is, I've heard yourself sort of rule out this season. I've heard Amorim rule out this season. Quite a lot of United fans have just ruled out this season, whatever happens. But is it a case of, if we can win the Europa League, would this tied to run be looked back with fondness, or is it a case of how on earth did we win it? I mean, what's going to be the vibe if we make it to the final?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so. I mean, you heard it from Amorim himself. He said nothing could save the season when asked about the Europa League saving it. So kind of hearing that from the manager, yeah, kind of doesn't fill you with too much confidence. But no, I think just given the circumstances, the position we've been in the last few months. If you asked me this, when he first took over, I would say I'd be happy. But I mean, just given how poor we've been and how far down the table, I think a team, we're 14th now, to win the Europa League is a massive accomplishment. And yeah, I think for us to get Champions League football then would be absolutely massive. Last year we had, not a great season well, and we won the FA Cup, and to get Europa League, that was a huge success. So I can only see us getting Champions League and being even further down the table this season as a huge success.
I thought you were optimistic, Cormac, but there we go. Yeah. Real Sociedad, just for context, they're also 11th in La Liga, so they're having a slightly better season. They've had 34 points after 27 games, so that's not great on the outskirts. But hey ho, the Europa League can bring out a title run in anybody. Anybody can win that Europa League from this point onwards. And I suppose as a neutral, that's what makes it so exciting. What's really exciting is I'm going to really surprise Cormac in part 2. So if you want to hear me surprise him, make sure you tune in after this.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
I want to take you back, Cormac, to simpler times. Let's say 8 years ago, in a little town called Stockholm. The last time we had a proper run in the Europa League, the last time we won it and obviously took home all the glory. And I suppose a look back into the past, we're good here at the Daily Manchester United at reminiscing. And I was going to ask, which of these players would you put in the team now? But I suppose the more accurate question is, which of our current players would you put in this Europa League winning side? I'll take you through it, Cormac, just to remind you. We had Sergio Romero in goal. We had Antonio Valencia, Chris Smalling, Daley Blind and Matteo Darmian. At the holding midfield, you had Ander Herrera with Juan Mata, Marouane Fellaini, Paul Pogba and Henrik Mkhitaryan on your 4 midfielders, and up front, Marcus Rashford, with sub-appearances from Jesse Lingard, Anthony Martial and Wayne Rooney. And on the other side, when we faced Ajax, we have current Manchester United players and Andre Onana and Matthias de Ligt as well. What a time. God, 8 years ago. Which players would you shoehorn in now from that 2017 squad?
Like players I put in from the current squad to that squad.
I
mean, the obvious one has to be Bruno. I think when you were reading off that midfield there, I think, right away I was like, oh, Bruno can go in there, probably for Fellaini, I think. And then who else would I put? I feel like the centre halves, I mean, Darmian, I'm actually surprised those are. I forgot that was the lineup in the final, to be honest. It was done very well to win that game. I'd say I'd put the Ligt in. Can we switch him around?
Yeah,
take the Ajax. Just even put him in the United one.
Yeah.
Probably him and Martinez, to be fair. Romero I'd absolutely keep. I was saying on the podcast we done about the signings, some good signings we've had. I put Romero in there because as in those cup competitions he was phenomenal, and at a time I really think we had like the best goalkeeper room in the world with De Gea in his fine form, and then Romero didn't put a foot wrong. It was a shame that De Gea was playing so well, because Romero, I feel like, done enough to be a number one anywhere else. And then Valencia as well, what a warrior. Even though Mazraoui's been good, I feel like Valencia, like, what a player he was at right back. I'd definitely keep him in there. But besides that, I mean, I don't think there's too much to change, really. It's kind of hard. I also don't want to mess with a team that won that final too much. I suppose you could maybe say Mkhitaryan, but he did get a goal in that final.
He did.
So yeah, I'd say they would just be the few for me. I think things haven't been too great 8 years later from that.
Yeah, it's hard to believe though that this was the team 8 years ago. I mean, looking at it, it's not a world-beating team, I don't think, in all accounts. Jose Mourinho was able to get second place, and he calls it his greatest footballing achievement, doesn't it? Better than any other trophy, but you can sort of see why. It's always good to look back at the past with rose-tinted glasses and think, oh yeah, in hindsight, everything was much better. But looking at it, there are players here like Fellaini who, whilst he was a panic buyer for David Moyes on a deadline day, wasn't as bad as we made out to be. He really wasn't. Was he a United player? Maybe not, but he wasn't. Like, come on, he was good in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that summed it up.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I have a gripe with sort of looking back too far and sort of saying, oh, we had it so much better, because looking at that squad, I think there's quality in there, I would say, but there are still transfers that on the whole didn't work out. Mkhitaryan, I think, is one of them. I think he had real potential to change everything, but unfortunately it just never worked. I think Darmian was an interesting transfer. Again, I don't think he had the impact, but yeah, Daley Blind at centre. I struggle with Daley Blind. Was he a good signing for United or not? And it's something that sometimes keeps me awake at night. I have trouble deciding.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think just for the fact we got him cheap, I forget what it was. Was it like 13 or 14 million or something? It wasn't too crazy. If I'm correct, I think we brought him after with Van Gaal at World Cup 2014. But to be fair, I thought he always put in a solid performance. I know it's tough when you're not the biggest centre half. He's kind of a bit like Martinez in that aspect. Was kind of doubted a bit, but listen, he wasn't an amazing player, but I feel like, for me personally, I thought he always done a solid job. He was, a technical footballer. And yeah, I mean, for the money we paid, I thought it was an all right signing, to be fair.
I think as well, he was a late bloomer. When he went back to Ajax after United, he turned into such a better defender, such a better player. And you sort of think, if we gave it a couple more years, maybe he would have found that potential. But on the flip side, you sort of think maybe he had to leave United in order to realise his own potential, which is a bit of a weird one. But that seems to be a case for a couple of players that have left on loan this season. Wig, wig, nudge, nudge. But I just find myself looking back, and Wayne Rooney coming on as a 90th minute substitute in 2017. You wouldn't believe it, would you?
No,
I mean, obviously he was nowhere near the player he was. At that point, he was being almost put in at centre mid rather than anywhere else. I mean, he came on as a substitute for Juan Mata in that game. So it kind of summed it up that he was very much a midfield player. But I mean, what he lost in that physicality, he never lost with his vision in the game and his intelligence in the football pitch.
No, absolutely. And Rooney's kind of a weird one, because you look at other players like Ronaldo, the longevity they have, and Rooney was just a complete opposite. As soon as he kind of hit like 30, he was kind of fading away fast. And But no, you're right. I mean, he still had that technical prowess. I remember that Everton match, the one he scored from like halfway, just a beautiful chip, and I think he had another goal in that, maybe two more. But yeah, no, he just never lasted. It was more a matter of just the fitness and the drive. But to be fair to Rooney, he was thrown in from a young age, and he was worked like a dog. He never questioned his passion on the pitch, and maybe that just caught up with him too soon. And yeah, maybe he just wasn't looking after his body. I know I compared him to Ronaldo, which is a harsh thing to do because Ronaldo's just a different breed when it comes to that. But no, I would love to have seen Rooney maybe a few more years just at the top, because what a player he was for us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, I think you're right. You have if you put all of the players, every single player in that sort of professional aspect, and you have the average, I think they say it's between 28 and 32, or maybe 27 and 32 is when you have your peak of your career, depending on what position you play. But I feel like Rooney had his peak so early. As you said, he was made his debut at Everton. I think it's 16, wasn't it? Someone has to correct me on that one. It was either 16 or 17. Very young age, but he took to it like a duck to water. He was so physical right from the off that, when you make your debut like that and you are that raw talent and you are a physical phenom to be able to have to deal with, at some point that is going to catch up to you, and it's going to happen to you earlier than it would on average, because you've peaked much earlier than anyone would have expected. So it would make sense by the time he was 28 or 29 that he was starting to lose that physical edge, what made him such a fearsome player to come up against. He was starting to lose that even in his late 20s. But I think he did well to have the career extend into his 30s that he did. I think it was a very wise decision from several managers to sort of say, look, we'll drop you back a bit, because whilst you can't have that physicality up front anymore, we can't afford to lose your technical ability in that midfield.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, it reminded me a bit of like kind of when Scholes came back as well, that when Fergie wanted him back after retiring, just kind of you're that good, like just get on the ball, sit, dictate the tempo, you mightn't have, as you said, what you had before, but, managers are there to kind of change the way players play and, adapt them to certain roles. And yeah, I mean, Rooney, I thought, showed if he wasn't a striker, you wouldn't have guessed it, because he had that ability in midfield as well, just as up front. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it really is a shame because the passion never died with him. It was just more so the legs. I even remember when he went to DC United, he had that great, I think 95th minute tracking back slide tackle, and then he hit a beautiful ball back post and DC United scored to win it. And yeah, he never lost that hunger. One of the most hungriest, passionate players I think we've ever seen at United.
For sure. We're going to take a little bit of a breather, and when we come back, we've got a bit of news coming out of Old Trafford, or what may really well be Old Trafford in the next few years. We'll be back after this.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Okay, then let's address the elephant in the room in our final part of today's podcast, and it comes from the communications department at Manchester United, where they've announced the intention to pursue a new 100,000-seater stadium as a regeneration of Old Trafford, of the Old Trafford area. The stadium, the press release says, and the wider regeneration project have the potential to deliver an additional £7.3 billion per year, which brings large-scale social and economic benefits, 92,000 new jobs, 17,000 new homes, as well as an additional 1.8 million visitors annually. Some of the pictures they've released as well, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe, co-owner of Manchester United, as we all know, says today marks the start of an incredibly exciting journey to the delivery of what will be the world's greatest football stadium at the centre of a regenerated Old Trafford. Our current stadium has served us brilliantly for the past 115 years, but it has fallen behind the best arenas in world sport. By building next to the existing site, we will be able to preserve the essence of Old Trafford while creating a truly state-of-the-art stadium that transforms the fans' experience, only footsteps from our historic home. Cormac, your reaction to this news that's dropped today?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bittersweet because I'm kind of a traditionalist. Like, I love the history of things, and yeah, I mean, we've been at Old Trafford since 1910, like, and the history that goes along with it, and surviving bombings in World War II, and it's probably the most iconic stadium in England now that Wembley got rebuilt a good few years ago. Um, but then on the other hand, United is such a massive club. Fans are always trying to go to watch matches. They have such a huge fan base across the world that yeah, to add another 25,000 seats in there is huge for the club. The direction we want to go, boosting the revenue, as you said, the economic, social benefits to the area, excuse me. And yeah, just step in the right direction. Jim Ratcliffe pointed out, like, there has been problems with Old Trafford. There was a clip of the roof, I think, kind of leaking a good bit. That was going around a year or two ago. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame because Old Trafford is known around the footballing world so much, and for it not to be there, not to be part of United, the original one that is a shame. But it's always time to move things on, and all good things must come to an end. And yeah, it's the whole design, everything looks really exciting, and yeah, to be fair, it'll be a new chapter, I hope, and hopefully the football will go along with the development.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of the news. I'll be completely honest with you. I think it's a bit tone deaf from Sir Jim. He's trying to cut money and the threat of redundancies, and now he's coming out with this new stadium, which news outlets are reporting might be as much as £2 billion to build. And the figure on that comes from a couple of different sources, but the one I would just say, it's tone deaf. You can't be talking about cutting lunches and cutting jobs and making redundancies, and in the same breath saying, well, actually, we've got a new stadium plan. Which is it? Do we have money or do we not have money? Are we close to running out of money at the end of the year, or do we have enough money to build a new stadium? A lot of mixed messages, and I'm really not a fan of it. And I think this news just makes us a bit of a laughing stock. What are we doing? What's going on here? I don't understand. What's the motive behind this?
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, you're spot on with that. I mean, yeah, it's completely contradictory. All the cuts we've had. Ratcliffe was on, only a day or two before this announcement was made, talking to Gary Neville and saying, even in the summer, we owe £90 million for Casemiro, Anthony, few players like we have to pay still, and Ratcliffe was saying, like, he's pumped in 300 million of his own money and still there's trouble. We were seriously close to, according to him, like, going down a very bad path. And yeah, you look at the lunches getting cut and everything, and then for the no announce a £2 billion project, new stadium, is a bit baffling when you've been complaining so long about the way the club's been ran and the debt we're in and all that stuff. So yeah, no, I think you have every right, Kieran, well pointed out, to ask what the hell is going on. What's the decision behind this?
I mean, I'll leave you with this. This is from BBC Sport, because they've released an article asking a couple of questions about what the new stadium will be like, where will it be built, when will it be built, and under the tag of how will the new stadium be built, they've got a quote here from architect Norman Foster, who said, normally a stadium would take 10 years to build. We've halved that time to 5 years by prefabrication, by using the network of Manchester Ship Canal, bring it back to a new life, shipping in containments, 160 of them Meccano-like. And Ratcliffe added as well that it will be a modular build, which means it's built far more quickly. Again, that doesn't sound like, that doesn't come across the way that it should. When something should be a 10-year project and you say you can do it in 5, this sounds a bit fishy, but I'm happy to be corrected. I'm happy to be wrong. I just think the whole announcement, making it today, in mere days after Ratcliffe opened up to Neville, oh, by the way, we've got a new stadium. What? Think about it, lads. Come on. Anyway, Cormac, your final thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean, just touch on the stadium again. I mean, yeah, that whole shortcut thing, I hope there isn't problems, but when you're putting stuff together a bit like Lego, piece by piece, you just hope there's not a few gaps missing somewhere there. And but no, I feel like the other stuff as well, like they were talking about like a square outside the stadium, kind of an indoor square where there'll be like shops, restaurants, food and stuff. I think that's really exciting as well. I don't think you really see that with much stadiums, so definitely getting modernized. But no, I think it is strange, as you said. The main thing I think for us now, the focus is taking care of the mess we're in, and this obviously doesn't help at all. But hopefully the hierarchy know what they're doing, and hopefully Ratcliffe, given more time, can show why we wanted him to take over as owner, or at least majority shares in the club. But no, yeah, that goes the same. And then in terms of Europa League, I pray to God we can move on to the quarterfinal and the boys can show up like they did against Arsenal.
It's time travel. Bring back the likes of Mkhitaryan and Fellaini and go for it, eh? Oh, dearie me. Well, listen, you've made it to the end. Congratulations. Let's face it, it's talking about Europa League. We're talking about how we could possibly make it. We're talking about travelling back in time. Again, that's not like us to reminisce about better times when a Europa League victory in the final was considered better times. That was only 8 years ago. Plus the prospects of a new stadium coming within the next 10 years with no substantial or evidential way of finding that money right now. We'll see. Hey, we'll see. We're all in this together on this wacky roller coaster that is the Daily Manchester United. And if you fancy listening to more of it, make sure you do follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're on both. We're also on YouTube as well. Global Sports Podcast Network Ltd. Find the Daily Manchester United podcast playlist and you can start watching our faces. God, how lucky you would be. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you're missing out. Go head over there now. And if you want to start an argument with us, we're happy to oblige. It's GSPN Man United. We are on Twitter and X, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. We look forward to joining you there. Until next time, though, have a very great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.